Zealand A321, turn right heading 180. Order 14 Papa, turn right 245, report localizer established 27.
Hey everyone, welcome back to DJ's Aviation after quite a long time, to be honest. I'm going to leave a timestamp on the video and feel free to skip forward as this is when the video will actually technically be starting with information. Beforehand, I'm just going to be giving a few updates. Over the past 5 days or so, I've taken a bit of a step back from YouTube purely because I've been a train wreck in terms of illness. You could probably tell throughout my other videos, and ultimately, although I did want to push through it, it did become too much. I've received a lot of comments saying, why did I never put out the 100,000 subscriber Q&A? So firstly, that's still going to be put out. Secondly, I have been sick now for around a month, so obviously progress has been pretty slow, and the task of going through hundreds of questions is quite time consuming to say the least. And on top of putting out regular daily content like I was, and working on other things like the Patreon and more, it wasn't a direct priority for me. So rest assured that will be going live at some point, but I can't give a firm date because I don't know what's going to be happening in the future. Anyway, this particular video is going to act almost as an update for you all. It's going to be a bunch of news stories that I couldn't cover in the past 5 days, all into one video. So it'll kind of be similar to my recap videos I did when the Farnborough Air Show was on. Our first story is coming from Virgin Australia, an airline very close to home. Over the past day, they've experienced many ups and downs, with the airline announcing that they had converted their order for 10 of the 737 MAX 8s to the larger MAX 10s, with delivery set to commence in 2022 for the larger aircraft. Despite this conversion, Virgin Australia will still take on board the 737 MAX 8s, with deliveries commencing for that particular variant in November of 2019, so around a year. The Virgin Australia Chief Financial Officer commented on the conversion and the aircraft, saying, "The innovative interior of the MAX 10 aircraft has a larger cabin and number of seats and an extended range, offering flexibility to our network and greater efficiency for slot-constrained airports. The 737 MAX 10 certainly makes sense within the Virgin network, and as a lot of people in this community are eager to learn about engine choices, the CFM International LEAP 1B engines will be fitted on board this particular variant, as they are featured on all 737 MAX aircraft." Now with the high, sadly comes a low. Continuing on with Virgin Australia, the carrier has now reported a $671 million full-year loss. This comes from its international business assets and the deferred tax accounting write-offs, according to the News Daily. While these results are negative, before tax the carrier did post a profit of $109 million. This all comes from the domestic traffic the airline has experienced over the past year. And this constant growth has seen many airlines benefit. While the airline reported full-year losses, revenue is still growing and was up 7.4% to an estimated $5.42 billion. Virgin expect this to continue to grow and are actually expecting another 7% to be added on in the first quarter of this financial year alone. Of late, the Virgin Australia international sector has been losing favour among travellers, with routes being pulled because of network double-ups. For instance, a flight between Sydney and Abu Dhabi with Virgin Australia was pulled quite a while ago due to a number of reasons, including the loss of demand because of Etihad Airways, its partner. Ultimately though, things in the future are looking up for the carrier, as they have just dove into a very popular market, which is Asia, starting up flights to Hong Kong, which is boosting the airline greatly and potentially gives the international business within Virgin a brand new purpose. To conclude, it's important to note due to the rising operating costs, Virgin won't be the only airline that will dip in the overall losses or profits. Pilots, while not my forte nor something of interest, they are essential to this industry, and in recent days, Boeing put forward a number, and a key one for that matter. As you've heard me say, the industry is thriving, and the growth for jobs is actually mind-blowing. Boeing said that they would need some 635,000 new pilots in the next 20 years, with a whopping 622,000 aircraft technicians also needed in the next 20 years. These numbers equate to well over 1 million. And with this growth, it does mean that the need for training areas, facilities, and more are all resulting in the need for more jobs to build these sort of things and get these things up and running. In Boeing's outlook, they say the pilot labour shortage has continued to tighten amidst strong global air traffic growth. The Asian Pacific region is of course the area needing the largest amount of pilots and aviation staff, with roughly 240,000 pilots, 242,000 technicians, and 317,000 cabin crew all being required in the next 20 years. Out of all of this, the most will be required in China, with Southeast Asia and a few other places following closely. Boeing later added, strong demand for pilots in the region continues, and we expect this will continue for the next several years. The reason for this, yes, including the growth, is actually because of a number of reasons, like the retirement of pilots. For instance, we're seeing several thousand depart over the next 5 years in America alone, the lack of training facilities, the low pay experienced by some, and the costs to actually train to become a pilot. This is diving into my own opinion here, but it certainly can be quite expensive compared to some other occupation and can turn away those who may not be able to afford the training. So making this sort of thing more affordable could get more people into the position. Moving across to New Zealand, the national carrier Air New Zealand confirmed that they would take an additional 7 A321neos for further domestic operations. This commitment is important, as the Chief Financial Officer said. This is separate from the existing order of NEOs that will be arriving shortly for deployment on Trans-Tasman and Pacific Island networks. You can expect to see this new batch arrive from 2020 and conclude deliveries in 2024. This marks an exciting time for the carrier, with the first of 9 A320neos expected to arrive in New Zealand very soon, with an existing 8 A321neos already on order. With these expected to operate to Australia and more, I'll definitely be trying to jump on one of them to experience the cabin product and the overall feel of a brand new aircraft. While the A320neo family of aircraft will be the newest of additions to the airline, it's also worth noting that they've taken on board a 777-200 and a 777-300ER from EVA Air to help cover for the stricken 787-9s, of course with the damaged Trent 1000 engines attached. Staying with New Zealand, from November of 2018, those departure cards will be removed. However, inbound passengers will still need to complete an arrival card, and this, as always, is extremely fun. There's nothing like sharing the same pen around the entire cabin when everyone forgets their pen to fill in the arrival card. I've experienced it, and I'm sure you have as well. The phasing out of the departure cards, though, will benefit all travellers, especially those who do travel frequently, for instance, between Australia and New Zealand on the Trans-Tasman service. A couple of people in forums have actually said that the next step should be taken to make these flights between Australia and New Zealand better, and that would be making them domestic flights instead of international to make travel even more seamless between the two countries. Loud Emotion also appeared in the news after they unveiled a new livery, expansion plans, and more. The carrier is set to grow its A320 fleet by the summer of 2019, as they expect to double their fleet size from 9 to 18 aircraft. After a very successful first few months, with flights consistently over 90% full, the airline does believe this will be the next step for them. Additional investment and support from Ryanair has also meant the airline can grow in Europe, with a key focus on the Austrian and German market in particular. The brand new livery also represents their growth and a new phase for them. As we come to the end of this aviation news update, I'll just cover a few more stories. Korean Air noted that they would deploy their A220 aircraft on international routes from the fourth quarter of 2018, which is certainly an interesting move for the aircraft's future. We learnt that Cayman Airlines, based in Cayman Islands, would deploy its 737-800 aircraft on a brand new route to Denver International. Now, this is the longest non-stop service, which is actually operated by the airline and will be a seasonal route operating twice weekly from next year. This new route is, of course, a big move for the carrier and tourism in general to the beautiful Cayman Islands. New airline KC International from Cambodia also launched scheduled operations in recent days. Jet Airways continue to put in place their cost cutting, despite refusing to note publicly their losses and what's actually been occurring with them. TUI Airways announced that they would begin their 737 MAX operations in the fourth quarter of 2018, with flights from Manchester to Tenerife, Reykjavik, Malaga, and more. I'd like to thank everyone who remained patient over the past 5 days. After uploading every single day for something like 9 months, having no video was not only weird probably for you, but also weird for me. I've learnt over the past few days that while I'll do everything I can to have daily uploads, if there's no real news or something I want to do, I'll just give that day a miss or try to perfect a particular video I may be working on, rather than rush it out to keep that daily cycle going. So once again, thanks, and normal videos will resume tomorrow. I do look forward to you all joining me in that video.